Now we have on the phone with us David Johns, National Black Justice Coalition Executive Director. We just interviewed you, David, this week on the morning show. Thank you for coming on with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
Let's give some perspective to the city of Los Angeles this evening. You deal with this every day. Why are we here again tonight?
We will remain here until we deal with the reality of the contradictions that have formed America. What it means for us to be missing that this is not just about George Floyd, our Breonna Taylor, our Ahmaud Arbery, our Tony McDade, or any individual Black person whose life has been taken in the name of justice. But this is about the fact that most Black people know the pain of existing in places where we don't even have the promise of the things that white people take for granted. And so I listened to the sheriff Villanueva talk very pointedly about the problems of racism and white supremacy and anti-Blackness. And the question that I continue to ask myself is, if he described that jails are places for people who are threats to society, where do threats go when they wear uniforms? I wish that the energy that is being demonstrated and forced tonight existed when these police officers took the lives of Black people, not just in the last 2 weeks, but over the last, as you all have talked about, the last 30 years and the decades since transatlantic enslavement.
You know, David, this evening, the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Garcetti, one of the things that he said in his evening press conference is that there is no good that could come of this. How do you respond to that? Because folks that are out there, they're out there, most of them, for good, for this cause, for their community. So how do you respond to that?
The fact that Mayor Garcetti is responding to it suggests that he's absolutely wrong. Protest is the language that Americans speak. We would not be here as a country if it were not for the fact that people protested what it meant to be in Europe and born into a system where your access to privilege was much more constricted and confined, right? And so we have to be clear beyond what Dr. Martin Luther King said some time ago, which is that right for the language of the unheard, protesting both peaceful and painful with regards to profit. The concern that too many people have tonight is about profit that is already protected by insurance money. This, for me, should be a concern about humanity. And to be clear, this is about Black humanity. The Black lives clearly don't matter because people are protesting for the reason that there has not been justice. And we also have to redefine that term, just to be clear. It bothers me that we continue to talk about justice when in application, Black people can be murdered. And then at best, we can hope that the murderer will be arrested. At best, we can hope that the murderer will be decertified, when the reality is that seldom are people arrested. And if they are, they just move to another city and get another job to do it all over again. That has to change, or we will continue to arrive at this very place again.
And that's why we're seeing such an enraged nation this evening. David, one of the things we've been trying to figure out, why the Fairfax district? Why the Grove? Why Beverly Hills? Is there a mindset behind that, or just was it random?
Why not? Why not? In this moment, again, I want to be clear, I don't condone violence. And I wish that we did not live in a country that cared more about protecting property than it did people. But this is where we are. And if this is what it takes to get people to do that which is required to have our country live up to its founding principles and the promise of us all being able to be free and live with liberty and justice for all, then so be it.
So what's it going to take, David? What's it going to take after this yet again erupts across the nation?
It will take us sitting in the discomfort of needing to change policy and practice so that Black people don't die on camera or off camera. It'll require us changing words and literal words, redefining justice so that we don't have to hope for the potential of being redeemed after we are killed when we are struggling to live in real time. It'll require people showing up to ensure that those empowered to be the police chief or the sheriff's deputy or the mayor are actually held accountable when things happen before moments like this. It will require us keeping this same energy when it's people's lives that are on the line and not property that is already insured and will otherwise be replaced.
You know, I was reading the New York Times earlier today, and there was a piece in there, and one of the things that the writer was saying was that, yes, it's about, George Floyd, yes, it's about Breonna Taylor, yes, it's about Eric Garner and Trayvon Martin, but also it's about the fact that 1 in every 2,000 African Americans have been infected with COVID-19 and the inequities that have been exposed in the healthcare system in this country as well, and the fact that across the board, the writer was saying Black lives do not matter. So this moment with all these protests is so much bigger than just these individuals.
Yeah, none of this is new. I think about the reality that some time ago, Gloria Lasting-Billings, a researcher, educational policy guru, gave a talk at Columbia University after Katrina. And what she said, and the title of the talk is that now they're wet. And the point she is making at that time was that all the inequities that people are now opining about and talking about as if they're new, the gaps between Black students and white students, rich students and poor students, none of that was new. The only thing that's different is now they're wet. The same thing exists now. Now these places are on fire, literally, but the inequities that have allowed us to come to this place, the fact that police officers feel empowered to kill people. Literally, I saw today police in New York driving cars into crowds of protesters. The fact that that is allowed to happen, that you get to be a thug if you wear a uniform and feel empowered to do that, is the problem. And we should stop being surprised when we get to these places because we don't sit in the uncomfortable work of changing things so that people's lives are actually different, changing things so people don't feel like those in power care more about property than they actually care about people.
So, David, what good can come out of this? Is there anything that can move us forward in the direction we must be?
I mean, yeah, again, we're here having a conversation where we get to name racism and white supremacy and anti-Blackness. There are people who are otherwise in positions of privilege who are now out of their homes trying to figure out how to respond to this. My hope is, and what I'm attempting to support, is ensuring that there is strategy around these protests, that they're anchored in making demands and shifting policies so that it's not just this moment, but that it's connected to a sustained movement. But we also have to recognize that, again, the fact that we are here having this conversation is significant. And the fact that people have put their bodies literally on the line to protest peacefully or not so peacefully, it's significant. That should not be diminished.
And David, before we let you go, as the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition, what is your message to the Black community of Southern California this evening?
Listen, I am a child of Southern California. I was born and raised in Inglewood, California. That's my home, and I want my people to be safe. But I also want my people to continue to challenge and to agitate and to push our country to live up to its founding principles. Black people built this country for free, and we are beyond tired of watching systems be employed that do not respect our humanity and allow white people to kill us without impunity.
David, the officer that had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes plus, Derek Chauvin, he has been charged with third-degree murder and is behind bars this evening. The other 3 officers who were at the scene with him have not been charged. What should happen?
I don't think that we would be watching parts of our city burn if those officers had been arrested. I have seen more force be demonstrated on people walking after a curfew was enacted within hours than officers who literally killed people on camera and or otherwise facilitated it. They should be arrested. There should be policies enacted so that anytime a person, a unarmed person, a Black person is murdered, officers are immediately arrested. They do not have access to their pension. They are not rehired or recertified in any other place. Those types of policies would make it so that we would not have to see moments like tonight.
David Johns, thank you so much for your powerful voice and your powerful message during this evening when we needed to hear from you. We hope to check back with you and again later.